Hi, today we're going to deploy Couchbase Enterprise running on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure using Terraform. Couchbase Enterprise is a distributed NoSQL database. It's a document store, but it's really unique in that you can query the documents, JSON documents in the database, using an ANSI SQL compatible query language called Nickel. A variety of really interesting companies use Couchbase to run core parts of their business, including LinkedIn, UPS, and Emirates Airlines. All right, so let's get started. So to deploy Couchbase on OCI, first off, we're going to navigate to github.com/cloudpartners. And you can see right now there's a repo currently pinned, OCI Couchbase. It may not always be pinned. We're working on a bunch of different repos in here, but you can always find it by typing Couchbase into the search bar, and here it is. This is all open source, Apache licensed, so feel free to suggest changes or fork it and make your own changes, whatever you like. I'm going to make a local copy of it, so go here to clone and hit copy, and then I'm going to flip over to my terminal. So over here in my terminal, I'm going to run the command git clone and then paste in that URL, hit enter. So that's now cloned the repo. I can change directory into it, and yeah, sure enough, there's my local copy of the repo. And if I change directory into simple, they're the different Terraform files that make up our module. And probably the only one a beginner user would ever really need to modify is the variables. That specifies some environmental variables like your keys and all, which are passed in from the environment, as well as what the cluster is going to look like. And our cluster is going to be running VM standard 1.4s, 3 of them, with Couchbase 5.5.0 and the username and password. We're also going to install Sync Gateway. Sync Gateway is really cool. It's kind of an intermediary layer between Couchbase server and mobile devices that might be running a mobile version of the database. A bunch of gaming and travel companies use this, and it'll sync up a version of the database running out on the phone with a version of the database running in the cloud. So we're going to deploy 2 sync gateways as well. Right, so let's exit out of the config file. I showed you those keys that are getting passed in as environmental variables. We have another repo called OCI Prerequisites up on the same org that talks about how to set those up. Various people have different opinions on what the right way to do that is. Personally, I like dropping all this stuff in my bash profile just so I don't have to worry about it. So you can see I have a couple tendencies. I have a personal one that's commented out, and I'm using this one called int mahesh_t right now, exporting some keys. I'm grabbing a fingerprint programmatically, and then I'm grabbing my keys from various directories sprinkled under home. One other key part, this is deploying to Ashburn. So if you want to deploy to a different region, you just change what's specified in there, but no big deal. Right, so clear that. And now if we want to get this set up to run, we've got to run a Terraform init. And this is going to go grab the Terraform provider straight from HashiCorp. The OCI one's now up there, which is super cool. And it went out, it grabbed 3.3, and we're all good. So next up, I can run a Terraform plan, and this will show me what the deploy is going to do. And you can see it's making a whole bunch of different stuff, network stuff, passing in user data, just on and on. So if I want to actually run that for real, I now run Terraform apply. It prompts, are you sure you want to do this? Oh, yes. And tell it to run. And it's going to take a few minutes to run this. When it's done, it's going to spit out URLs for server and sync gateway. those might not be available quite yet when it finishes because the Cloud Init user data scripts run asynchronously and will wrap up typically a few minutes later after that infrastructure deploy is all done. All right, so the Terraform apply just finished running, and it's printed out a URL for Couchbase server and a URL for Sync Gateway. And I mean, we can go try to take a look at these now. My suspicion is it's going to be a little early because the user data is probably still running, but it doesn't hurt anything. So yeah, sure enough, server's not quite up yet. And let's try pasting the Sync Gateway in and see what happens. Oh, look, our Sync Gateway's come up. So you can see here, Sync Gateway's running version 2. This is just the REST endpoint exposed, so nothing too exciting. We can also grab this IP. So this is one of the IPs of one of the 3 server nodes we deployed. And Couchbase is the peer-to-peer replicated database. So basically all the nodes are homogeneous in this deployment. We just picked one arbitrarily to print out just as an endpoint to go talk to. So these nodes are running on Oracle Enterprise Linux 7.5. If I want to connect into one, I need to do an SSH-I and then give it the path to my key, which is that. Default username for these Oracle Linux images is OPC, and then at that IP address. So if I hit enter, yeah, sure. And I'm now logged into Couchbase server 9277, it looks like. So if I want to go poking around, I can go over to like var log and see what's in there. And the really interesting part in here is probably this messages file, but that's only readable by root. So I'm going to sudo su, I'm going to cat messages, and you can see what it's doing. So it's running through, it's doing all this stuff. Startup finished, interesting. Okay. Well, let's now flip back over to the web browser and see how that's going. All right, so back at our web browser, we can see Couchbase consoles now come up. So in order to log into this, I need to enter in the username and password that were specified in my variables.terraform file. And if you don't remember those, it's easy enough to go check. Just flip back over to the terminal, quit out of this machine we're connected to, and we can cat variables.tf. And you see here, admin username in our config is Couchbase, passwords foo123 exclamation. So flip back over here, type in Couchbase, and the password. I don't really need to remember that. And look at that. We have 3 nodes up and running. These nodes are running a whole bunch of different stuff since this is the new Couchbase 5 version. We've got a data service, index service, search, query, eventing's really cool. It's the new functions on the database thing, and then analytics. We don't have any XDCR stuff going yet. This is just a single cluster running in a single region, but that's cool. One other neat thing we can do is we can log into Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and we can actually take a look at the infrastructure running this database. So if I go over here, compute instances, and loading, I can see we've got a bunch of different nodes that say Couchbase things. So server node, sync gateway, server, sync gateway, server. And you can click on these and inspect them. Gives the IP address of that node, and similarly to what we did before, we can give that IP and just log in over there and loads up the console and so forth. Thanks so much for watching this video on how to deploy Couchbase Enterprise running on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. If you have any questions, take a look at the links below.